Picture this, a small band of humans, walking endlessly across vast grasslands, following herds and gathering wild berries. Now, what if I told you that a simple act, planting seeds in the ground, changed absolutely everything for humanity? 12,000 years ago, our ancestors made a discovery that would transform them from wandering nomads into the builders of great civilizations. This wasn't just change, it was a revolution that shaped who we are today. Think about it. Every city you see, every meal you eat, every complex society we've built, all of this began with that first moment when someone decided to plant a seed and wait for it to grow. It was humanity's first giant leap toward civilization as we know it. The agricultural revolution wasn't just about growing food. It was the spark that ignited everything we consider modern civilization: permanent settlements, complex social structures, written language, and even the first great empires. Before we dive deeper into this fascinating journey through prehistory, into a time when humans first learned to cultivate the land and build permanent homes, let me share with you how this revolutionary change reshaped our entire way of life. This is the story of how agriculture transformed us from survival-focused nomads into creators, innovators, and civilization builders. It's the tale of humanity's first great revolution, and it all started with a handful of seeds. Stay with me as we explore this incredible journey of discovery and innovation that changed the course of human history forever. Would you like to learn more about this fascinating transformation? Make sure to subscribe to The Dawn of Humankind for more amazing stories about our shared human past. Let's travel back in time to around 10,000 BCE, when Earth was emerging from the last ice age. This period marked the beginning of what archaeologists call the Neolithic era, a time of radical transformation that would forever change the human story. Imagine the world then. The climate was warming, ice sheets were retreating, and new landscapes were emerging. Our ancestors, who had survived for millennia as hunter-gatherers, were about to embark on an extraordinary journey of discovery. Just as the digital revolution today transforms every aspect of our lives, from how we communicate to how we work, the Neolithic Revolution was equally groundbreaking for our ancestors. Think about this. While today we're learning to navigate artificial intelligence and virtual reality, our Neolithic ancestors were mastering something just as revolutionary: the ability to grow their own food. Around 12,000 years ago, in different parts of the world, particularly in the Fertile Crescent of the Middle East, humans began to notice something remarkable. The seeds from their gathered food, when dropped near their camps, would sprout and grow into new plants. This observation led to one of humanity's greatest experiments: the deliberate cultivation of plants. But it wasn't just about plants. Our ancestors also began to form unique relationships with animals. They noticed that some wolves were less aggressive and would linger near their camps, leading to the first domesticated dogs. Later came sheep, goats, cattle, and pigs, each domestication event marking a crucial step in human development. This wasn't a rapid change. It took thousands of years. Different regions developed agriculture at different times, creating unique cultivation methods based on local conditions. The Fertile Crescent had wheat and barley, while in Southeast Asia, rice became the dominant crop. In the Americas, it was corn and potatoes. Just as today's technological revolution is creating new social structures and economic systems, the agricultural revolution fundamentally restructured human society. People began to settle in one place, build permanent structures, and develop new technologies for farming and food storage. This transition marked humanity's first major step away from being passive participants in nature to becoming active shapers of our environment. It was the beginning of our modern world, setting the stage for everything from cities to writing systems, from complex social hierarchies to the first governments. The Neolithic Revolution wasn't just a change in how we obtained food. It was the foundation upon which all subsequent human achievements would be built. It was our first great leap toward becoming the civilization-building species we are today. Dawn breaks over a small clearing near a river, somewhere in the Fertile Crescent. A woman kneels on the ground, her calloused hands carefully placing seeds into the soil she's been watching for seasons. This is Uma, we'll call her that, one of humanity's first farmers, though she wouldn't have called herself that. Uma's grandmother was a nomad who followed the herds and gathered wild grains. But Uma has chosen a different path. She's noticed how dropped seeds sprout into new plants, and after years of careful observation, she's learned to work with the earth itself. Her decision to stay in one place was nothing short of revolutionary. Each morning, She faces challenges we can barely imagine today. Will birds steal the precious seeds she's planted? Will the rains come at the right time? Will wild animals destroy her crops? Every day is an experiment, every season a risk. There are no farming manuals, no inherited wisdom about crop rotation or soil management. She's writing humanity's first chapter in agriculture through trial and error. The transition from hunter-gatherer to farmer wasn't easy. Many of Uma's relatives thought she was foolish to give up the old ways. Why stay in one place when you could follow the herds? Why wait months for food to grow when you could gather it from the wild? The decision to settle down meant giving up the security of proven survival methods for an uncertain future. But Uma and others like her were remarkable innovators. They learned to read the seasons, understanding when to plant and when to harvest. They discovered which plants could be cultivated and which animals might be befriended rather than hunted. They invented new tools, digging sticks hardened by fire, stone sickles for harvesting, baskets for storing seeds. These early farmers faced constant challenges. Some seasons brought too much rain, others not enough. Sometimes their stored food would rot or be stolen by raiders. They had to learn to protect their fields, to preserve their food, to plan for the future in ways their ancestors never had to consider. The decision to become farmers required immense courage. Imagine the first person who decided to feed a wolf instead of running from it, leading to the domestication of dogs. Picture the first human who thought to plant seeds in organized rows rather than simply gathering what grew naturally. These weren't just changes in behavior, they were profound leaps of faith. These early agriculturalists were also the first civil engineers, creating irrigation systems by diverting streams. They were the first architects, building permanent homes and storage facilities. They were the first scientists, selecting the best seeds for the next season's planting, effectively performing early genetic modification through selective breeding. Their legacy lives on in every field and farm today, in every grain of wheat and every domesticated animal. They were the pioneers who transformed human society from bands of nomadic hunters into settled communities that would eventually give rise to the first cities and civilizations. These weren't just survivors. They were visionaries who dared to imagine a different way of life and had the courage to pursue it, despite the enormous risks and challenges they faced. Their story is the story of human innovation, adaptability, and courage in its purest form. The story of early agriculture is also a story of remarkable technological innovation. What began with simple observations led to a cascade of inventions that would transform human capability forever. Let's start with the very first cultivated plants. In the Fertile Crescent, wild wheat and barley were the pioneers of agriculture. These grains had a unique characteristic: they could be stored for long periods without spoiling. Early farmers noticed that larger seeds produced better plants, and they began selecting the best grains for the next season's planting. This was humanity's first step into genetic modification, thousands of years before we understood genetics. Alongside these grains, peas and lentils became crucial early crops. These legumes did something magical that early farmers couldn't see, but certainly benefited from. They enriched the soil with nitrogen, making it more fertile for future plantings. In different regions, different crops emerged: rice in Asia, corn in Mesoamerica, potatoes in the Andes, each adaptation perfectly suited to its environment. But growing these plants required entirely new tools. Here's something fascinating. The first agricultural tools were adapted from hunting implements. Sharp stones that once served as spearheads became the edges of the first hoes. Imagine the ingenuity of these early farmers, creating digging sticks hardened in fire, stone axes for clearing land, and flint-bladed sickles for harvesting. One of the most revolutionary inventions was the scratch plow, initially just a heavy branch pulled across the soil. This simple tool, when combined with domesticated cattle, multiplied human agricultural productivity enormously. It was the ancient equivalent of today's tractors, transforming how much land a single farmer could cultivate. Storage technology was another crucial development. The need to keep grain dry and safe from pests led to the invention of pottery. These early ceramics weren't just containers, they were the first long-term food storage technology, allowing communities to survive through failed harvests and harsh winters. The development of irrigation systems showed remarkable engineering skill. Early farmers dug channels to direct water from rivers to their fields, creating the first human-made water management systems. They built dams and reservoirs, understanding that controlling water meant controlling their destiny. Here's a fascinating detail. Those sharp stones used to prepare the soil, they weren't just randomly picked up. Early farmers learned to knap flint and other stones to create specific tools for specific tasks. Scrapers for cleaning animal hides, axes for clearing land, blades for harvesting. Each tool was carefully crafted and often traded between communities. The innovation didn't stop with tools. These early farmers developed methods to process their crops. They invented grinding stones to turn grain into flour, created fermentation processes for brewing the first beers, and developed ways to preserve food through drying and smoking. Perhaps most remarkably, these technological advances led to the development of the first specialized craftspeople. As farming tools became more sophisticated, certain individuals became experts in making them. This was the beginning of human specialization, the first step toward the complex division of labor that characterizes our modern world. Each of these innovations might seem simple by today's standards, but they represented quantum leaps in human capability. They were the foundation stones upon which all subsequent technological progress would be built. From these humble beginnings, a sharpened stone, a hardened stick, a clay pot, grew the entire edifice of human technological achievement. The transition from a nomadic lifestyle to settled agriculture was perhaps humanity's greatest challenge, a complete reimagining of how humans lived, worked, and organized themselves. Let's explore the monumental obstacles these early pioneers faced. The shift to a sedentary lifestyle brought unprecedented challenges. Imagine the psychological adjustment, from following the rhythms of nature to actively controlling your environment. For the first time in human history, people had to stay in one place, dealing with problems they could previously escape by simply moving elsewhere. Disease became a serious concern. Living in permanent settlements, close to domesticated animals and human waste, created new health challenges. Archaeological evidence shows increased rates of infectious diseases and nutritional deficiencies in early agricultural communities. The very act of staying put created the first public health crisis in human history. Climate was an unpredictable adversary. Unlike today's farmers, these early agriculturalists had no weather forecasting systems, no understanding of seasonal patterns beyond basic observation. A late frost could destroy entire crops. Too much rain could rot seeds in the ground. Too little could lead to drought and famine. Each season was a gamble with survival at stake. Food production presented its own set of complex challenges. Early farmers had to learn through trial and error which crops would grow in their soil, how deep to plant seeds, and when to harvest. They discovered the hard way that planting the same crop repeatedly in the same field would eventually deplete the soil. Crop rotation was an innovation born of necessity. Storage was another critical challenge. Successfully growing food wasn't enough. It had to be preserved to last through winters and poor harvests. Early farmers had to develop methods to keep grain dry and safe from rodents and insects. They learned to build raised platforms for storage, to use smoke for preservation, and to create pottery for containing liquids and grains. Protection of resources became crucial. Unlike hunter-gatherers who could carry their possessions with them, farmers had to defend their fields and stored food from both wild animals and other humans. This need for defense led to the first permanent structures and, eventually, the first walls and fortifications. Water management was particularly challenging. Early farmers had to learn to predict river flooding patterns, construct irrigation systems, and protect their crops from both drought and flood. They developed sophisticated water-lifting devices and drainage systems through generations of experimentation. The management of time itself became a challenge. Agriculture required a new relationship with time, understanding seasonal cycles, planning for future harvests, and organizing labor throughout the year. This led to the first attempts at creating calendars and tracking time systematically. Social challenges emerged as communities grew larger. For the first time, humans had to develop systems for sharing resources, resolving conflicts, and organizing labor on a large scale. The need to coordinate agricultural activities led to the development of the first leadership structures and social hierarchies. Perhaps most challenging was the complete transformation of human relationship with nature. Instead of adapting to the natural environment, humans began to modify it. They cleared forests, diverted waters, and fundamentally altered landscapes. This new role as shapers of the environment required new skills, new tools, and new ways of thinking. Learning to farm was like learning a complex dance with nature. One wrong step could mean disaster. Each generation had to pass on hard-won knowledge to the next, developing the first systems of practical education. They had to learn to read the stars, understand soil types, recognize plant diseases, and predict weather patterns. These challenges forged new human capabilities. The solutions they developed, from irrigation systems to food storage techniques, from new social organizations to the first calendar systems, became the foundation of civilization itself. Every problem solved was a step toward the complex societies we live in today. As we reflect on the agricultural revolution of the Neolithic period, striking parallels emerge with our contemporary world. Just as our ancestors faced the challenge of adopting entirely new ways of living, we too are navigating unprecedented changes in how we work, communicate, and organize our societies. Consider how artificial intelligence is transforming our world today. Like the first farmers who experienced both resistance and enthusiasm toward new agricultural methods, we're witnessing similar reactions to AI and automation. The same human dynamics of innovation, adaptation, and resistance to change that played out 12,000 years ago are unfolding in our digital age. The development of early agriculture offers profound insights into modern innovation cycles. Those first farmers who experimented with different seeds and growing techniques mirror today's technology entrepreneurs testing new ideas and failing fast to learn quickly. Their process of trial and error, observation, and refinement is remarkably similar to modern scientific methods and startup methodologies. The agricultural revolution didn't just change how humans produced food, it fundamentally transformed how societies organized themselves. As communities grew around productive farmland, they developed increasingly complex social structures. We see this same pattern today as technology hubs create new economic centers, reshaping modern cities and social hierarchies. Those early agricultural communities had to develop systems for managing shared resources, leading to the first property rights and legal frameworks. Today, we face similar challenges as we grapple with managing digital resources, intellectual property, and shared virtual spaces. The principles of cooperation and governance that emerged in early farming communities continue to guide our approach to modern challenges. The rise of specialized roles in agricultural societies, farmers, toolmakers, religious leaders, administrators, mirrors the increasing specialization in our modern economy. Just as agricultural surpluses allowed some members of society to pursue non-farming activities, today's technological efficiencies enable new forms of work and creativity. Perhaps the most valuable lesson from this ancient revolution is the importance of human adaptability. Our ancestors demonstrated remarkable resilience in the face of climate variations, crop failures, and social upheavals. This same adaptability serves us today as we face climate change, technological disruption, and evolving social structures. The agricultural revolution teaches us that major societal transformations require not just technological innovation, but also social and cultural adaptation. Early farmers had to develop new values, beliefs, and social norms to support their new way of life. Similarly, our digital revolution demands new frameworks for privacy, social interaction, and work-life balance. The success of early agricultural societies depended on their ability to store and transmit knowledge across generations. Today, as we face unprecedented rates of technological change, this reminder about the importance of knowledge sharing and intergenerational learning becomes increasingly relevant. Early farmers learned to think long-term, planting seeds for future harvests and developing sustainable agricultural practices. This long-term perspective remains crucial today as we confront global challenges that require sustained, multi-generational solutions. The agricultural revolution shows us that the most profound innovations aren't just technological. They're transformations in how humans organize, cooperate, and envision their future. As we stand at the threshold of new revolutions in artificial intelligence, biotechnology, and space exploration, these ancient lessons about adaptation, cooperation, and resilience become increasingly valuable. We are the inheritors of that first great revolution, carrying forward the same human capacity for innovation, adaptation, and perseverance that enabled our ancestors to transform their world. As we face our own unprecedented challenges, their journey reminds us that radical change, while daunting, has always been part of the human story. The agricultural revolution wasn't just a historical event. It was a testament to human ingenuity and adaptability. These same qualities will be crucial as we navigate our own period of transformative change, carrying forward the legacy of innovation that began with those first seeds planted 12,000 years ago. Archaeological evidence reveals fascinating details about our early farming ancestors that might surprise you. Let me share some remarkable discoveries that paint a vivid picture of humanity's first agricultural communities. Early farmers were the world's first geneticists, even though they didn't know it. They created corn from a wild grass called teosinte through selective breeding. The original plant barely resembled modern corn. Its kernels were tiny and sparse. Through careful selection over generations, they transformed this unremarkable grass into one of humanity's most important food sources. Here's something remarkable. The first alcoholic beverages were actually a direct result of early agriculture. When stored grain got wet, it fermented, leading to the accidental discovery of beer. This wasn't just about creating a pleasant drink. Beer became a crucial source of nutrients and clean hydration in early communities, often safer to drink than water. The development of agriculture led to the world's first property laws. Archaeologists have discovered clay tablets from ancient Mesopotamia containing detailed records of land ownership and agricultural disputes. These were humanity's first documented legal systems, all stemming from the need to protect and manage farmland. Early agricultural societies developed sophisticated astronomical knowledge. They created complex calendars by observing celestial patterns, crucial for knowing when to plant and harvest. Many ancient monuments, including parts of Stonehenge, were actually elaborate astronomical calculators used to track farming seasons. The transition to farming had surprising effects on human biology. Analysis of ancient skeletons shows that early farmers were generally shorter and had more dental problems than their hunter-gatherer ancestors. Their more restricted diet, heavily dependent on grains, actually resulted in some nutritional deficiencies. However, they could support larger populations, leading to greater genetic diversity in farming communities. Agricultural societies developed the first writing systems, but not for poetry or stories. They were created to keep track of grain stores and animal herds. The earliest known writing, cuneiform, consists largely of agricultural inventories and tax records. Mathematics, too, evolved from the need to measure land and count livestock. The domestication of animals had unexpected social impacts. Living close to animals led to the development of new diseases, but it also helped humans develop immunity to various pathogens. This would later prove crucial when different human populations came into contact with each other. Early farming communities were surprisingly egalitarian at first. Archaeological evidence suggests that early agricultural settlements showed little social stratification. It was only as farming became more efficient and surplus food became available that social hierarchies began to develop. The first towns weren't built around palaces or temples, they were built around granaries. The need to store and protect grain led to the development of complex architecture and the first public buildings. Some of the earliest monumental structures were actually sophisticated grain storage facilities. Climate change played a crucial role in the development of agriculture. The end of the last ice age created conditions that made farming possible in many regions. Ironically, modern climate change is now challenging many traditional agricultural practices, forcing us to adapt just as our ancestors did. Women likely played a central role in the development of agriculture. Anthropologists believe that women, who were traditionally responsible for gathering plant foods, were probably the first to observe and understand plant growth cycles and begin experimental cultivation. The development of farming led to the first trade networks. Different regions specialized in different crops and products, leading to the establishment of long-distance trading routes. Some of these ancient trade routes are still in use today. Agricultural societies developed the first tools for measuring time beyond simple day and night observations. The need to track growing seasons led to the development of calendars and timekeeping devices, fundamentally changing how humans understood and organized time. Early farmers were also the first environmental engineers. They developed sophisticated irrigation systems, terraced hillsides for farming, and created artificial ecosystems that still exist today. The rice paddies of Asia and the terraced hills of the Andes are living monuments to their ingenuity. The shift to agriculture had profound effects on human social structures. It led to the development of inheritance systems, as farmland needed to be passed down through generations. This created the first formal family lineages and inheritance laws. Perhaps most surprisingly, agriculture led to the development of art and culture as we know it today. With stable food sources and permanent settlements, people had more time for creative expression. The first complex art, music, and cultural practices emerged in agricultural societies. These fascinating details remind us that the agricultural revolution wasn't just about growing food. It was about transforming every aspect of human life, from our biology to our social structures, from our technologies to our understanding of the world around us. Many of the systems and practices we take for granted today have their roots in those first farming communities. We began our journey 12,000 years ago with a simple act, planting a seed in the ground. As we've discovered, this seemingly modest beginning triggered the most profound transformation in human history, reshaping not just how we obtain food, but every aspect of human society. Think about this. Every city you've ever seen, every technological marvel you've ever used, every complex social structure you've ever participated in, all of these trace their origins back to that revolutionary moment when humans first became farmers. The agricultural revolution wasn't just a change in food production. It was humanity's first step toward becoming the civilization-building species we are today. The story of early agriculture reminds us that the most transformative innovations often start small. Just as those first farmers could never have imagined the world their discovery would create, we too stand at the threshold of changes whose full impact we can barely comprehend. Our digital revolution, our explorations into artificial intelligence, our ventures into space, these are our generation's seeds, planted for a future we're only beginning to imagine. But perhaps the most powerful lesson from this ancient revolution is the remarkable adaptability of the human spirit. Our ancestors faced climate change, population pressures, and technological challenges with creativity and resilience. They transformed challenges into opportunities, experiments into innovations, and risks into revolutions. As we face our own global challenges, climate change, technological disruption, social transformation, we carry within us the same capacity for innovation and adaptation that enabled our ancestors to revolutionize their world. Their journey reminds us that radical change, while daunting, has always been part of the human story. The agricultural revolution teaches us that the future belongs to those who dare to experiment, to those who can imagine different possibilities, and to those who have the courage to transform their world. Just as our ancestors did 12,000 years ago, we too have the power to shape tomorrow through the seeds we plant today. Our journey through this pivotal moment in human history is drawing to a close, but the echoes of this revolution continue to shape our world. Every meal you eat, every community you're part of, every innovation you embrace, all of these connect you to those first brave farmers who dared to imagine a different way of living. The story of human civilization is an ongoing narrative of innovation, adaptation, and transformation. It's a story that belongs to all of us, and one that continues to unfold with each passing day. If you found this journey through humanity's first great revolution as fascinating as I have, I invite you to join us for more explorations into our shared human past. Every week, we uncover new stories that illuminate how our ancestors shaped the world we inherit today. If you enjoyed this video, remember to hit that like button. It really helps others discover these amazing stories about our shared human heritage. Share your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear what surprised you most about the agricultural revolution. What parallels do you see between those ancient innovations and the changes we're experiencing today? Don't forget to share this video with friends who love history and human innovation. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the Dawn of Humankind and hit the notification bell to join us on more fascinating journeys through human history. Together, let's explore the remarkable story of how we became who we are today. Thank you for being part of this incredible journey through time. Until our next historical adventure, keep questioning, keep exploring, and remember, the seeds of tomorrow's revolutions are being planted today. See you in our next episode, where we'll uncover another fascinating chapter in the epic story of human civilization.